Um, not much of a love poet. I write mostly about social issues. And the thing about writing about social issues is you get a lot of hate back. And nothing gets more hate back to me as when I write and talk about racism, mostly from white people. Whoa, wonder why is that? Now, some days I wish I could go back in time and not do that anymore, but then we're in 2019 and we still have to talk about it. So I took that hate that I have been receiving from so many people and I turned it into a poem, and this piece is called Explaining White Supremacy to a White Person. Yeah, some of you may not like it. I don't give a crap.
No, the people who are in here will like it.
Explaining white supremacy to a white person. We learn to adapt to your habits, your customs, your culture, your presence. We learned your anthems, your religion, your languages, your rules and standards. We learned and learned and learned. But when you see me out here on the street, you greet me with ni hao or konnichiwa. And when I call you out on your ignorance, you claim to be culturally sensitive and considerate, not learning anything. That is white supremacy. You see, white supremacy isn't about the KKK or neo-Nazis marching through streets, hurting people, claiming to take back a country they never even owned. That's plain and simple violence and bigotry. White supremacy is tweeting. This is not us conveniently forgetting that your country's recent history so clearly shows it is. White supremacy is the aftermath of centuries of colonialism and slavery deeply woven into the fabric of our 21st century. White supremacy is not about you having to apologize for the atrocities that your ancestors committed, but you not admitting to your whiteness and privilege. White supremacy is white people talking loudest in this racism debate, silencing those voices who speak real truth to power. White supremacy is Femke Halsema not realizing how goddamn white she has to be for saying, if you call everything racism, you can't find the real racists. White supremacy is using xenophobia, hatred, and violence to defend the Dutch tradition of blackface while being protected by police and politicians. White supremacy is you Columbusing our traditions without our permission, because while slavery may officially be illegal, that has never stopped white people from treating our culture as their property. White supremacy is having to work twice as hard your entire life because while white people's success is being attributed to merit, the success of people of color is contributed to affirmative action. White supremacy is being called an immigrant, is being considered an immigrant when your white colleague is called an expat. White supremacy is growing up with Peter Pan, Snow White, Friends, or any other TV program with so little color in it. You'd almost start believing that the world truly is colorblind. White supremacy is Matt Damon unrealistically rescuing the entire Chinese civilization and Tom Cruise being the last fucking samurai. But not a single Asian male actor can realistically star in a romantic Hollywood blockbuster. White supremacy is not a single person of color taking on the lead role in a fantasy movie. Because even in a make-believe world, we can't even imagine a person of color starring. But to this day, white people are still effortlessly being cast to portray Asian and Arab characters, making whitewashing still a thing. White supremacy is being found guilty until proven otherwise, when all you've ever done was wear your skin color with pride. White supremacy is being found not guilty of murder when you shot him in cold blood because society still values your white ass more than the life you took. White supremacy is being judged a terrorist when it's a person of color and being diagnosed a lone wolf when they are white. White supremacy is sending thoughts and prayers when again a white man went on a killing spree while sending back families to countries where they will be killed. White supremacy is always carrying the burden of representing your entire race in the face of negatives, crimes, and stereotypes, while you never ever have to justify who you are. White supremacy is white people knowing that it's better to have white skin unless you're willing to fight for equality your entire life. White supremacy is a shelf full of white dolls. White supremacy is not the face, it's the entire body. And you embody white supremacy by denying that you see color, refusing to talk about race on my terms, rejecting any responsibility in today's race and debate because it doesn't affect you. Your unwillingness to listen and learn from people of color, believing that by condemning neo-Nazis, KKK, and right extremist parties, you are not subject to unconscious biases, or thinking that by having a friend of color, you cannot possibly be racist. But Kevin, I didn't mean it that way. You're not listening. But Kevin, I don't hate people of color. You're not learning. But Kevin, I always vote liberal. You're not understanding. But Kevin, I like you, and you're like Asian. You're not reflecting. But fuck, man, I am not a white supremacist. True, you are not a white supremacist. You only uphold white supremacy. You see, white supremacy is not you. It's the system in which we both grew up in. White supremacy is the white history we have both inherited, but you are enjoying the benefits and I am paying its taxes. White supremacy is everything that I see and you don't. White supremacy is everything that I understand and you won't. White supremacy is you telling me that everything I just said is reverse racism. Denial is encouragement for the oppressor, not the oppressed. Taking a neutral stance really means playing defense for the oppressor, not the oppressed. Silence in the face of oppression hurts more than the voices of the oppressors. And I won't allow silence to fuel the violence against people of color. I will use the only weapon of choice I have in this fight for justice, my voice. Because white supremacy is us still having to have this goddamn conversation over and over and over again.